Absolutely incredible. BNY drops new technology that looks a lot alike what Ripple does already. People are speculating that could Ripple have some involvement here. We're going to explore the deeper connection between the world's largest asset custodian and, of course, Ripple, the leader in institutional blockchain infrastructure. Let's go ahead and take a look at this new product, and I got a ton of other information I want to go through with you, but let's start here. This new product is called LiquidityDirect. It's BNY's modernized platform. Is designed to streamline your treasury workflows from multi-asset class trading to real-time cash forecasting. Get it done quicker with more insights to drive performance.
We would like to introduce you to the new and improved LiquidityDirect. We've transformed from being a portal to a liquidity platform that extends into our clients' workflows and simplifies complex routines to drive performance. The new and improved LiquidityDirect is all about meeting clients wherever they may be on their operating spectrum and enabling them to excel. For starters, we've modernized the way in which the treasury function interacts, trades, and manages your portfolio. Multi-asset class functionality from a single trading view creates an efficient liquidity management environment. You can also transition seamlessly between working on trades.
Okay, so you kind of get it. It doesn't really get into much more than that. I just wanted to show you that. But here, take a look. BNY managing institutional liquidity just got simpler. Explore their LiquidityDirect and a comprehensive one-stop shop platform for short-term investments, fund research, and automated sweep functions. And here is some of the top quality things that you're going to see. Now, when you're talking about BNY and Ripple, the connections do go deep. They do have RLUSD reserves right now at BNY. Ripple selected BNY as the primary reserve custodian for RLUSD, holding the US dollar reserves one-to-one transaction banking services. You also have press and confirmation around that partnership. You also have a tokenized deposit platform. In early 2026, BNY launched a tokenized deposit service for institutional clients. Ripple Prime is highlighted as an early adopter of that. And then you also have this ongoing strategic partnership. Ripple publicly describes BNY as a long-standing strategic partner and emphasizes BNY's role as a primary reserve custodian for RLUSD. And we have seen a lot of stuff about that, right? Ripple selects BNY as RLUSD. That is, not new news. And here is that tokenized deposit solution. We did talk about this. This was in January. Ripple said today our partners at BNY launched tokenized deposit services for institutional clients, bringing the promise of digital assets directly into the banking system. With Ripple Prime as an early adopter, we're proud to expand our long-standing strategic collaboration with BNY. Together, we are bringing traditional and digital markets together. And then the CEO of BNY Treasury Services Business outlines the differences between tokenized deposits and stablecoins. Remember that BNY is servicing as the primary custodian for RLUSD.
What are the benefits of tokenized deposits versus stablecoins? So that's the first part of the question. I'd say, what are the main differences? And then how do you see tokenized deposits being used for payments in a permissionless system, if possible?
Yeah, absolutely. So, right, so tokenized deposit, we think of that as cash in the bank, right? So it is a digital representation of a bank deposit. And so that stays at the bank. And so that stays within the walls of BNY as an example. And so the benefits of that are certainly cost efficiency, speed, but also liquidity optimization. Still one of the biggest problem statements that exists today in the payments industry is around optimizing your liquidity and reducing trapped cash and really reducing settlement risk. And so the tokenized deposits really help you do those things inside the wall of a bank. But then you have a stablecoin. So stablecoin is, think of that as cash outside the bank. It is backed by some form of collateral, cash, T-bills, what have you. But that can traverse across multiple chains and multiple systems. So we would see that existing alongside other forms of fiat and other forms of existing currency today. So there's a number of use cases. I think both are equally important, but they do different things.
All right. And then also you have this clip here. Caroline Weinberg, Chief Product Innovation Officer at BNY, $55 trillion in assets, mentions Ripple and talks about building better rails.
So I'm going to ask Carolyn another question, which is, so BNY has just been selected to custody stablecoins. Can you talk a little bit about how that process evolved and what your experience was in the decision making around taking that step?
Sure. So for quite a while, we've been enabling stablecoins, Circle and others. The announcement, I think, is Ripple, Open Eden recently as well. What we're really focused on is the enablement and the ecosystem. So how do we actually think about this concept? We said there's treasuries underneath. You need bank accounts, you need payments. So all of these things we do to enable the stablecoin. We sort of inside we call it stablecoin in a box because we actually can enable all these things, and we have lots of partners around that do much of the pieces as well. And together, what's important is that this is about better rails, and I think Nathan said it as well. We really, if there's a pain point, if you will, for a client, how can these rails enable that? So from our perspective at BNY, what we're really focusing on is how do we enable the stable coins to actually save our clients money, to create better, cheaper, faster ways, get reduction in capital and these efficiencies. So that's one really important thing for our clients. And the second thing is the role we play in this central position. Our vision is that by being the custodian and the enabler and manager in some cases for the treasuries of these stable coins, we can ultimately, in a future state, interoperate between all of them. And that interoperability, imagine a world where you have treasuries in one stable and treasuries in another, all sitting at BNY. It's a book entry in many ways. The question is, how do you have 24/7 treasuries? Or if you have a cash account and a cash account, enabling between inside BNY for the tokens to move 24/7 and the underlyings to move 24/7, that's what we're focused on. So what we're comfortable with is enabling our clients who are stablecoin issuers, who are settlers of transactions. We have 55 trillion in assets in custody. Imagine if all of those wanted to trade on blockchain within the BNY network or outside. That whole system, if you will, can be enabled through BNY. And that's what we're focused on. So hopefully that explains it. But imagine if there are loads of stablecoins and everything could just move in Ledger within BNY from treasury to treasury to treasury, from one to the next.
So BNY would handle all settlements. So if you had, let's say, RLUSD and Circle, and there was transactions inside of BNY between those two, that BNY would just settle it in-house.
That's what we're focused on. That's what we're trying to help, and to scale stable coins and then yielding coins, if you will. So Carlos brought up a product that exists that's yielding of stable coin. It's the same investment guidelines as a stable coin, but actually gives yield. So imagine just going back and forth, checking account, savings account, savings account. Ultimately, we would love to be able to do that for the system. And that's how we're comfortable.
So what we're talking about here, right, having a yield stablecoin. So if you're not using the money to, do business, you can put it in a stablecoin that gets a 3% or 4% yield. And then when you need to move that money back to do cross-border or something like that, you're just able to do that. And I think that's what Ripple is trying to maybe do with Ondo. And it looks like BNY is also trying to do that. I mean, every bank, like that's the holy grail, to be able to earn yield on money that you weren't earning yield before. We did the numbers on this. You're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars per year that can be added just by allowing a yield-bearing stablecoin to exist in the Nostro Vostro type system. You take the Nostro Vostro money, a portion of it, and then you would use that inside of the system. You wouldn't use all of it, right? Because you wouldn't need to. All right, and then also, this is right here with Ripple. They chose BNY for custody and RLUSD backing the sole US repo clearing bank. So if you didn't know, the repo market is about $9 trillion in total, and they clear about $2 trillion a day in that system. And so RLUSD, BNY, DTCC, Hidden Road, Fed master account. So there's speculation here. If Ripple gets their Fed master account, they're going to be able to do more here inside of this regulated system here. And if you can imagine clearing, $1 trillion on the XRP Ledger per day, I mean, that's really the holy grail of what we're trying to get to, clearing multiple trillions of dollars. But you got to build it up steadily. Ripple bringing G Treasury, Ripple bringing Hidden Road. I mean, that alone is $16 trillion per year. If you can bring that on the XRP Ledger and start clearing that, that'd be an enormous step forward. And so if you can just add bit by bit, that's really building brick by brick. And then you also have connections here between, Ripple now and Sandy O'Connor. You used to be at BNY Mellon. It's very well documented. We don't really need to get into that too much. And then the world's largest custodial bank, BNY, is exploring allowing tokenized deposits and blockchain payments. And we do look at some of the, presentations BNY has put together, and it lists all of these companies. And you have brokerages, exchange, soft wallets, hard wallets, investments, everything. And down here, special. It doesn't say special for every other company. You have Ethereum here, you have Bitcoin here. I mean, you have miners, but they're just labeled as special. And you start to wonder, why did they label them as special here? Someone approved this. Somebody put them in the special box, and there's just two companies here. you start to imagine that there's much more being done behind the scenes that we just have no clue about. And we're really looking forward to finding that information out soon. And then also DBS is continuing to its expertise as part of the global banking community to design and deliver our blockchain-based ledger for cross-border payments. We know that SWIFT is partnering with a ton of banks to try to move forward. We do know that most of the banks SWIFT is partnering with for this unified ledger. It does sound like they're, dealing with Ethereum and some things that are going on layer 2s on Ethereum, but a lot of these banks are Ripple enabled banks or Ripple partnered banks. And so, there are people that speculate that SWIFT eventually, regardless of what they say or do in public, that they will be quietly connecting the XRP Ledger to the SWIFT network. Now, there is a bunch of different partners that Ripple has that you already have. You can send XRP and things like that over the SWIFT network, but you really want that major announcement. Now, Franklin Templeton, Ripple, RLUSD, and Benji, we further expanded our digital asset and tokenization offerings with the launch of a tokenized structured notes on Ethereum public blockchain, as well as listing SG Benji, Franklin Templeton's tokenized money market fund, and RLUSD stablecoin on DBS exchange. This allows clients to trade RLUSD for SG Benji, enabling them to rebalance their portfolios on a 24/7 basis. We also launched programmable rewards or smart contract powered programmable digital vouchers that would allow vouchers to be programmed with specific conditions such as redemptions at approved merchants. This provides issuers of digital vouchers a direct access to, and they cut it off. And then of course, I thought this was just interesting to kind of add, we're kind of moving out of the BNY Swift connections here. There was a thing I wanted to show you. This is a new clip by James Sayoff.
We're seeing more basis trade flows into Bitcoin and ETH, but the flows into the Solana and XRP ETFs have mostly just been long-term investors, people who want an allocation to hang on to them.
Correct, because when Solana and ETH launched, the basis was single digits, and nobody's going to probably, that's also gross, so that's like, I don't know what the costs are. So the costs of putting on the trade are going to drive down those yields, and it was like 0% for some of them at different times. So like, there's no way there's people piling into these things for a basis trade. So
basically, people are getting into Bitcoin and Ethereum to speculate. People that are buying Solana and XRP are people that are long-term holders that have a long-term vision, it sounds like. And then Fleeka is integrating Interledger to power open interoperable payments by adding open payments and the Interledger protocol into their banking solutions. This will expand its offering of instant low-fee payment options for merchants and help support bank-to-bank transfers across 3,000 banks with the shared belief that money should move as easily as information across the internet. We look forward to this collaboration. And you have this announcement from the Interledger Foundation, and here's a 7-second clip.
And so the reason we use XRP is because like right now it's just a really cheap, efficient, very liquid way to settle our Interledger transactions.
Hey, listen, XRP is at the heart of the future of the financial plumbing. How much will they capture? How much will they gain? That is the question that everybody is trying to figure out. Obviously with all of the macro things happening globally and the fear of where the economy is going globally, as well as here in the United States, people are not really sure where they should be positioned. And you are starting to see some money flow from the stock market into the crypto market. Will that continue? I'll keep you up to date here on this channel. Thank you so much. If you got value from the content, please support it with a like and let me know down below what you think. Appreciate your time. I'll see you next time. Bye.